This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Merry Christmas. That is right. A practice squad episode on Christmas Day. A lot of credit to Stroz because let's be real, if it was just up to me, this probably wouldn't have happened. But we have an exciting show. Look, we've done, I think, all but one episode as what do we call it? An Oreo. Sports, fun, sports. We're not going to do that today. It's Christmas. We know you're maybe with your family. I'm not judging you if you are. I'm not judging you if you're not. Certainly a different year. But we're going to talk sports early, and then we're going to talk Christmas movies. And I don't know where you fall on Christmas time of year. Maybe we'll get into that as well. But I'm excited to talk about Christmas movies. But first, we got to do a little sports. It's a sports podcast. And I don't have a whole lot to say here. Stroz, favorite Christmas sports memories. So that gives you, I mean, it doesn't have to be on Christmas, but, around Christmas.
Around Christmas.
Christmas break as a kid. I don't know, whenever there's a lot of snow, I guess. The first thing that comes to mind for me is obvious, right? Like, I'm a Lions fan. Christmas Eve, sealing the playoffs against the Chargers. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't able to watch most of that game. I was at work. But I remember, tracking it on my phone. And by the time I got home to see my family on Christmas Eve, the Lions had it in the bag. One of the biggest blowouts they've had probably in the last 10, 15 years on Christmas Eve to seal the playoffs in 2011.
Yeah, that 2011 playoff, or that 2011 game to seal the playoffs was huge. I was at my dad's house watching the game, and I was so excited. Like, I almost ripped my Christmas clothes off. I was so pumped.
What I was you, and you associate being excited with not having clothes on.
Yeah, all the time. It's like the equivalent of sex, man.
It's not, though.
I mean, when you have sex, you generally don't have clothes on, right?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you have sex. I don't.
I mean, I was like, I don't.
No, it's not what I said. I was answering your question. I don't know how you have sex. No, I don't have clothes on when I have sex. But I don't know about you, man. All I'm saying is no. When I get excited, I don't take clothes off. And it's not just like an automatic response.
I take clothes off and baby oil goes on. That's how it works.
But anyways, you kept your clothes on.
That game was awesome, though. It was a fantastic game. Again, I was at my dad's house watching it. At the time, I was married, and my future in-laws were there. And I remember my future father-in-law or my future ex-father-in-law. How does that work?
I'm so confused. Really sure. You said I was married.
No,
you said future father-in-law, and I got very confused.
I wasn't married yet. I was.
So it was your future father-in-law as well as your future ex-father-in-law.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. I don't know. I need one of those little diagrams with the yarn and the push pins that the police have. I need one. Anyways, he was over in super foreign, and just didn't understand what the hell was going on. And I had to explain it to him, similar to the football team, the soccer team that you follow. Our football team sucks ass, and they're not any good. This is the first time I think since 1991 that they ended up making the playoffs. So I was super pumped and trying to explain this to him. He was like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." And I was like, "There you go."
Playoffs. He's a soccer fan. Playoffs. No, I'm just saying, soccer fan. They don't do playoffs. What the hell are the playoffs?
So that one, that was probably number one for me. I sent you a list because we're going back and forth, and you're like,
Dude, what the hell is there? In December? The Lions don't have many. I have lots of awful memories around Christmas time with the Lions. As far as I can remember, I mean, obviously Christmas time you associate with basketball, and I know for a lot of my childhood the Pistons were good, but I don't really remember the Pistons being a Christmas thing very often. I think one year they played
one or two games.
Yeah, it wasn't a big
when they were
thing.
good.
The Tigers obviously aren't playing in December. Mm-hmm. And who cares about hockey? So I don't know.
This guy does.
What are the other big Christmas time sports memories?
So I remember, speaking of hockey, I remember the Red Wings playing at Michigan Stadium, playing in the Big House, and that was a big deal. It was their outdoor game. I believe they played Toronto, and I think Toronto ended up beating them. It was so snowy that day. I was supposed to go to that game, but I was out of the country at the time.
So
I remember watching that when I was out of the country.
Outdoor hockey games are cool. I went to the Big Chill at the Big House, which I think was closer to New Year's than Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But that was still a really cool experience. Cold as hell. I don't think I would do it again. For a Red Wings game, I would. I don't think I would do it for a college hockey game again. But I guess like if you want to throw that in there, going to an outdoor hockey game was kind of cool, especially at the Big House, which is, freaking giant.
Mm-hmm. What about, and again, this is taking some liberties with the phrase Christmas time. You had Charles Woodson winning the Heisman. This was huge for me as a child. When was that?
Yeah.
It was 1997. It was 97 season. Again, I'm old. It's okay. Is this where you're going with this?
I have an idea how old I was at that time.
How old were you?
I was 4.
I was going to guess 4.
Just guess. Do you think I knew what the Heisman was at 4 years old?
No, you probably didn't.
I probably would have thought you were talking about the Heimlich.
I think I was 13 at the time. But like Charles Woodson winning the Heisman at the time was monstrous for me. I remember being at a family Christmas event for my stepdad. And there was, it was like they rented out this massive hall, and there was like this bar area that we couldn't get into because we were children. But I remember standing outside of it, looking through the glass, just watching him win this thing. And I was so pumped up, man. Like that 97 football team was like so near and dear to my heart. I love them so much. And Charles Woodson is like my one guy. Like if there's like a college football player that I love among everybody else, it's Chuck. I love
Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush?
Yeah, even though he wasn't, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but like, even though he wasn't a Michigan guy, and there was a time where I loved Michigan. Mm-hmm. Like, I would say the 4-year span of Chad Henne being the starting quarterback, because I started watching his freshman year. I really liked that team. Like, I remember I went to an open, what do they call it? The spring practice, and like waited for every single freaking player to leave to try and get autographs. I didn't get anything that cool. I mean, I had like, one of the wide receivers who ended up have a middle of the road career in the NFL, Arrington or something, Adrian Arrington, or
yeah.
I got an autograph from him, but like I didn't get any of the big ones. But so like, I was a very big Michigan fan. I loved Braylon Edwards, but Reggie Bush was definitely my favorite college football player to watch, and I don't think it was close.
Yeah, and like, do you remember when he won the Heisman? He won the Heisman, right?
That's the first one I remember.
Yeah, it's like that was monumental for you. So like that's how it was for me with Charles Woodson. Like Charles Woodson was a player I fell in love with, and I fell in love with that team. And him winning it, like the people he beat out for that. He beat out Peyton Manning for that. It was crazy.
Let me ask you this.
He was a defensive player too.
Because you're, like you said, taking liberties with Christmas time. The way I look at it is this. I do associate, like when I think of the Lions beating the Chargers on Christmas Eve is a part of it. Because like I remember that was my first time having to work on a holiday, which, depending on how you consider it a holiday, I did, because my family does stuff. So like I absolutely associate that with Christmas. And the big show at the Big House, I want to say it was New Year's Eve. It might not have been, but it was very, very close. And I don't technically associate it with Christmas in my mind, but I definitely 100% do associate it with New Year's. When you think of Charles Woodson winning the Heisman, do you attach Christmas time to it in your mind?
I do, because of the Christmas party that I was at. And that's why.
I guess that makes sense.
So that is why when, so to kind of lift the veil a little bit about how we kind of put stuff together, a lot of times we'll talk about it a week prior, and then we're like, oh, we could add this into the show the following week. And then we go through and we just basically text message back and forth. And then we basically show up and whatever happens. It's really magical the way we do shows, man. Because like I've never ever have put together a show the way me and you put a show together, and it works out really, really good.
It's the only way I've ever put together a show. How the hell do you put together a show?
I mean, there's usually a little bit more discussion, a little bit more planning. Like I really feel like me and you, we do that, but it seems like it's really off the cuff. Like a lot of times I have an idea of which direction you're going to go in, but I never really know.
Well, okay, no, that's fair.
Where we're going.
I've planned stuff out a little bit more, and we did early on.
Mm-hmm.
I just have come to trust that most of the time we're gonna, like, me and you are going to end up somewhere that I like. So I don't necessarily dive as deep in as I have.
Yeah.
Like, I would say probably the first 30 episodes we built things out a lot more than we do now.
I would agree with you.
The big thing that we discuss is we basically, do one of us love something about a topic? And then once we know we do, we trust the other to take it where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we don't love a topic, we might do a little bit more talking. But if one of us loves something about it, we generally trust that it's going to go where it needs to go.
Yeah, and I would say that's 100% accurate. So it was when we were trying to put all this together, that was one of the first memories that popped in my head Of course, Lions was number 1. Number 2 was Charles Woodson winning the Heisman. That's how closely I attach it to Christmas time. Then after that, again, taking a little bit of liberty with Christmas time, the 97 Rose Bowl team, that was on New Year's Day. So technically not Christmas, but again.
In my mind, if you associate it with Christmas time, then it counts on the list. I don't care if it happened in March. If you associate it with Christmas time, then it works for me.
Yeah.
Because Christmas time is such a broad term that I take it to mean like when I worked at Target in college, there was this, and this sounds so weird, but there was this aspect of the Christmas season that it was extended because we brought in Christmas stuff, and I was like working around Christmas music and Christmas decorations like all the time. And like I'm a fan of Christmas. Like I said, we might get into that a little bit. Like I love Christmas. There's definitely a nostalgic feeling to it, even though it changes as you get older. That feeling I had from being a kid in Christmas time is still there. So if your Christmas season extends into March, like I'm not going to judge you for that.
I appreciate you not judging me for having Christmas in March. Who the fuck's having Christmas in March?
Nobody's having Christmas in March, but if for you the Christmas season extends until it's 80 degrees outside, who am I to judge?
Look, if you're doing that, I'm judging you.
I'm not. Whatever makes you happy, man. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. If it doesn't feel like Christmas in March, then I don't want you including sports memories in March. I'm trusting you.
I love it. Does wrestling count as like a sporting event?
Yeah, sure.
So there was I think it was 97's WCW Starrcade. I think that was right around that 97 Rose Bowl team, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was the year after, the year before. But anyways, there was that Starrcade where Sting wrestled Hulk Hogan. That was a huge deal for me when I was a child.
I need to tell you what hit me when you brought this up. I loved wrestling as a kid, but I think you can tell me if I'm wrong. You're still into wrestling, right?
I am.
I think because of the time period in which we watched wrestling, we had different mindsets. When you said WCW, to me, WCW was like a wrestling, I don't even know what they're called, like promotion or whatever, that existed, but no one actually watched it. Like if you weren't watching the WWF or WWE, you weren't actually watching wrestling.
So I want you to know there was a time period, you were probably way too young. There was a time period there where WCW was incredible and it was awesome. And it kind of all culminated. There was this long, it was probably about a 1.5 year long storyline that culminated with this Starrcade match. And that's why it was so monumental and so important. And of course, I loved Hulk Hogan as a child. So, you know, you add Sting into the mix. I love Sting as a child as well. These were two icons of mine as a kid, getting in the ring and tussling.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. We have no business getting into this part of the conversation, and maybe we'll transition to Christmas movies here shortly. But, far and away, my favorite moment watching wrestling growing up. So I mostly watched it as the WWF. It had transitioned into the WWE in the back end of my time. But when WWF bought WCW, and I think they bought ECW as well.
Yes.
And they did the WWF versus WCW. That storyline, and like I was too young to realize that was what had happened. Like I didn't know that WWF bought WCW. I actually genuinely thought that they were battling to determine who was the supreme.
You bought into the invasion angle, huh?
I mean, I was probably in 3rd, 4th grade. I was way too young to understand that they bought them. But that was pretty freaking cool to me.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I remember that as well. Like the whole invasion angle was pretty intense, man.
Didn't they decide who was the winner by like a 6-man elimination match?
I believe so.
It was a 6-man tag team elimination match, which like began my obsession with elimination matches. That's like all I played when I played wrestling video games growing up. If it wasn't an elimination match, it didn't count.
Dude, I love that you used to watch wrestling. I never knew that about you.
I loved wrestling.
That's
I kind of went through two time periods of it too. I watched it from probably 2nd grade to like 5th grade, 6th grade. And then I got back into it like 8th, 9th grade for a little bit. Not as seriously. So what I would say is like, when I first watched, it was The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Undertaker, Kane, Brock Lesnar.
Those are pretty good. Those are pretty good timeline for you to watch.
And then I left, and then when I came back, it was like John Cena, Rey Mysterio. Those are really the only two names I remember. I was not nearly as into it the second time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I would recognize names. Obviously, like some of the names hung around forever. But I would say like John Cena and Rey Mysterio were the two like faces of the WWE that I remember.
I wish I could get you to spend, I don't know, an hour on like a Wednesday night and invest roughly 40 minutes into AEW and then invest roughly 20 minutes into NXT. Because those are two really top end promotions right now that are very, very good and very, very entertaining, as opposed to what WWE gives you on Monday and Friday nights.
What would the rating be like if it was a movie? PG-13?
Yes.
Because the WWF I grew up was probably R.
R. Yes, very much rated R.
And I think I would struggle with something that wasn't.
They've really dialed a lot of stuff back. AEW sometimes pushes the limit, not so much sexually, like that version of WWE that you used to watch it had a ton of sexual overtones. Not so much with AEW, but as far as like violence goes, people bleeding, getting busted open, those things still happen.
But the thing is, I need it in the storyline. I don't necessarily need it in the fighting.
Right. No, I get that. I would say AEW does a fantastic job of telling really, really good stories. Same thing with NXT. So NXT is supposed to be the feeder promotion for Raw and SmackDown. And it is heads and tails above both of those because of the storytelling that they do. The stories are so good.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up because we just did like 8 minutes of wrestling talk and we probably lost half our audience.
This whole thing just derailed.
I enjoyed it, but that was not intended. So we're just going to hard pivot into Christmas movies. Favorites. Anything jump off the page to you?
I love A Christmas Story. You're going to shoot your eye out?
No, I mean, I know it's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know. I don't know that it comes anywhere near the list for me. And it's funny because I like the story. Like, A Christmas Story has been done literally 100 different ways, probably 1,000 different ways. And I think they're all enjoyable. But I don't know. Honestly, I'm not judging you as much as I'm just like, it's really interesting to me because I appreciate what A Christmas Story is. But if you told me you get to watch one Christmas movie this year, I wouldn't even consider it. And I love the story.
What about, this one is more based on the memory, that it pulls for me. It's a Wonderful Life. So when I was a kid, my grandmother and me would stay up late. So like once I figured out Santa Claus wasn't real, my grandma was like, all right, cool. He knows. So no big deal. My grandma would let me stay up till 2, 3 in the morning with her. We'd put all the gifts out for my sister. She'd let me stay up with her and I would watch It's a Wonderful Life with her and I'd fall asleep with her on the couch. And then at some point she'd put me into bed. But it's more or less spending that quality time with my grandma watching it.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's funny because I think the movies you're picking are classics that, they were classics for me growing up too. I don't know what the difference is between me and you in that. Like, I like both of those movies. They're both really good, but I think maybe I just look for a different genre because those are both way more serious. And I guess if you look at my list, mine are more comedy.
Okay. Let's go with your list then.
As an adult, I think my tastes have changed a little bit. But when I think of Christmas movies, I think of like what gives me the nostalgia of a kid. And for me, there's a series that stands out as what means Christmas to me in movies. And that's the Santa Claus series, the Tim Allen Santa Claus series.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I hope this makes sense. So if I say that in my mind, growing up, and even today, when I think of Santa Claus as like a character, the lore that I think of comes from the Santa Claus movies. I don't care what like you were told growing up. I don't care what other movies you watched. Like in my mind, when Santa Claus dies, whoever puts on his suit becomes the next Santa Claus. And he automatically gains a bunch of weight and gets gray hair and a gray beard. And like, there's nothing you can do about it. You are now Santa Claus. Like in my mind, the truth to what Santa Claus is comes from those movies.
So you were born in what, 1993? Okay. So, cause like I'm looking up, so that's interesting. Huh. Cause So wow. So the original Santa Claus with Tim Allen came out in 1994. So you were 1. So that movie was probably played on like TBS or TNT when you were of that age where you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense to me. When you're like cognitive skills are like putting stuff together, like, oh, Santa Claus and this is what happens. I get it now. That's nuts, man. That's crazy how that movie impacted you like that.
I don't remember the second. So I watched them all, and I don't really remember any of, like, the first one, I remember everything. Second and third, not as much, but I do remember liking them. I know I went to the theater to see the third one. Kind of a funny fact here, and I don't know how many people can remember this. I'll tell you this. My first ever celebrity, if you can call it that, crush, came from that movie.
Oh, don't tell me. Let me try to guess.
There's literally no chance you can come up with it. I was a child.
It was Santa Claus 3, you said, right?
No, one. Number one. Oh, okay. We're talking about a movie I watched when I was probably 5 or 6.
Let me see if I can figure it out.
We are talking about, I watched that movie as a 5 or 6-year-old and liked one of the girls in the movie.
Was it Eric? No.
I don't know what her freaking name is. I don't know anything about her.
Was it Judy the Elf?
She was 13 in this movie. It might have been Judy the Elf. It was an elf. It was like, so I think she brings him hot chocolate when he first gets to the North Pole. And he thinks that she's hitting on him. And he says, like, you're too young for me. And she basically says, oh, no, like, I'm way older than you. And I'm married. I don't think I'm going to recognize her. I'd have to see the scene. I think that might be her.
Yeah, Judy the Elf, bro.
I don't know. Now I got to watch it and figure out, dude. I don't remember.
Paige Tamada? I don't know. Joe, she was in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, by the way. All of a sudden, I fell down Internet Movie Database's wormhole.
I cannot confirm that that's her. It's been a while since I've watched it, even though it's a classic for me. I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't ever think, like, I'm going to sit down and watch Christmas movies as much as I love those movies.
Mm-hmm. That's your number one?
So I want to, before I answer that question, say I'm aware that it's not the best Christmas movie, but yes, it is my number one.
That's fine. It's your number one.
Like, when I think of a Christmas movie that to me means like this is Christmas time, it is that movie.
Okay. What else you got on your list?
So this one I think gets a lot more love, but Elf. And I was older when Elf came out.
Yeah.
I mean, not like an adult, but like not a 5-year-old when I watched Elf. But I've loved everything Will Ferrell's done that's been popular. I've loved. Like I said, I was all about the comedy growing up, not so much the serious. And
I can't wait to watch your head explode when I tell you this.
Elf was probably one of the funniest Christmas movies ever. And I'm guessing you're going to say you don't enjoy it.
I've never seen it.
Why?
I've never seen it.
Here's the thing.
But with Will Ferrell, I like some of his stuff. Some of his other stuff, I don't necessarily care for.
What do you like that he's in?
I like Brothers, or not Step Brothers. Step Brothers, yeah, I like Step Brothers. Talladega Nights was pretty good.
At one time, that was my favorite movie ever.
What's the one where he's gonna go streaking through the quad? What the hell's it called? I don't remember what it's called. But that one I liked. But again, he played a bit role in that. So
Anchorman?
Oh, Anchorman's great. Yeah, no, I love Anchorman.
I mean, so all I'm saying is I love his popular movies. You're basically naming his popular movies.
Yeah.
I think the Other Guys was him.
Other Guys was him. I watched that for like 15 minutes and I was like, I'm good. The fact that he was banging, I think, what was her name? Eva Mendes in that movie. And I'm like, oh, how are you banging her? And you're like Will Ferrell. Like, by the way, I had like the hots for Eva Mendes. Smoking hot back then.
I assumed, given
right
where you were going.
Does she look like she floated over here on a raft? Does she might need some U.S. document paperwork to be here? If so, there's a good chance I like her. Just FYI.
I'm trying to think. Like, if you take those movies off the list, I can't even remember the last time I watched a Christmas movie.
Oh, wow, really?
No. I mean, so here's the thing. Like, I haven't lived at home in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really gonna watch a Christmas movie by myself. I don't know. Is that weird? In my mind, you have to watch a Christmas movie with somebody else.
Yeah, I don't think that's weird. Because let's be honest, are you gonna sit down and you're like, oh, I gotta watch the Santa Claus? That's on. No, I don't think that's gonna happen.
And like I have no shame in admitting it if it's the case. There's plenty of things I do that people would think is weird. Sure. Like I've gone to see movies that are like by myself. I have gone to see movies that are aimed at 18-year-old women. So I have no shame in admitting it. But for me, like a Christmas movie just doesn't stand out as what I feel like watching when I'm at home by myself.
Did you ever see the Night Before That had Seth Rogen. Looks like Gordon Levitt's.
I don't think so.
I've never seen it either, but it looks super, super funny. They get like high and super drunk, and it's just like all the insanity.
No way, a Seth Rogen movie?
Right. Oh, what about Just Friends? Just Friends is a movie that takes place during Christmas time. I love that movie. That's a great movie.
Who's in that?
Ryan Reynolds, Amy Smart. They were high school best friends. He fell in love with her. He ends up moving. He's like super fat and kind of dorky. He ends up moving.
I've seen
out,
it. I enjoy
like
it.
A model.
I don't know. Like in my mind, I don't even think of it as a Christmas movie.
Christmas movie, yeah.
Which I mean, I think you have to have the discussion, right? So I've never seen Die Hard.
You've never seen Die Hard?
Never. Is that a Christmas movie?
I was wondering if we were going to get to this point because you got really excited when we brought this up. I was wondering if you got excited because you're gonna be like, Die Hard's a Christmas movie, and you're gonna like stand on this hill and you're gonna like pound your fist and beat your chest.
I got excited because I like Christmas time. Like,
okay.
I mean, we both know, I've shared it plenty of times. I'm a celebrate everything guy. Mm-hmm. I love Christmas. I love Halloween. It's funny because I'm relatively indifferent about Thanksgiving, but like, it's honestly, it's because what gets hyped up about Thanksgiving is the food, and we've talked about it. I think it's overrated. But, I love Christmas and I love Halloween, so I just get excited for the time of year. But the thing is, like, I love Christmas music too. I don't listen to Christmas music. I love Christmas movies. I don't watch Christmas movies. I just like those things. I think some things in life bring you a joy that it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like you can dig into it, but on the surface level, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I would say that about Christmas movies because there's nothing that draws me to watch them by myself, but just talking about them to me is exciting. But no, I do need the answer. Just, we don't need to get into it because I never watched it. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I think it's a Christmas movie because it takes place during a Christmas party. Do I think it is a Christmas movie per se, like the Santa Claus or kind of how you remember it? I don't remember Die Hard as a Christmas movie. When I think of Die Hard, it is not a Christmas movie. For me, Die Hard is, I think I seen it when I was a kid during the summertime. I watched it with my dad, I think. So no, it doesn't remind me of Christmas.
Is it more or less a Christmas movie than Home Alone?
I think Home Alone's a Christmas movie.
But I think I haven't seen Die Hard, but I think it's similar, right? Because the theme of it's not Christmas, but it's persistent. Like you know that it's Christmas all throughout.
It's Christmas, yeah, no, for sure. No, but like I when I see Home Alone, I do think Christmas time.
I do too.
Like so, here's a movie. So like Edward Scissorhands, right? Edward Scissorhands takes place during Christmas time in the movie, but I don't think of Edward Scissorhands as necessarily I wonder Christmas
what the
movie.
line is. I'm going to speculate that it's when it was on TV when we were growing up. Because you brought up the idea of Santa Claus being on TNT when I was a child, and I think of Home Alone very much being a movie that was on TV around Christmas. So sure. I honestly wonder if that's what determines it for us. I think it might be.
I mean, and I think this would lend a little credence to it. So, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, not the Jim Carrey version, but the actual animated version by Dr. Seuss. When I was a kid growing up, I remember me and my sister just as kids gathering around the TV to watch that. And that was like my favorite as a child, was watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And again, it was on TV. I think it was on like channel 2 or it was on CBS when we were kids. And this is when you had like rabbit ears on your TV because I'm 1,000. And we would just...
I never had those.
No, right. Yeah, see, lucky you.
Not just by much, but...
My sister would have to be the one to go change the channel. Like, Sam, go change the channel. Like, because I wasn't getting up.
So this is, if you know me and my TV taste, not a surprise. I don't know if it'll come as a surprise to you. The cartoon, How I Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
Not really a fan.
No, really.
I'm not a cartoon guy.
I like that one better than the movie.
I'm not a cartoon guy, and that persists throughout basically everything. There's very few examples where that breaks. Like, I mean, I could probably name the cartoon movies I really enjoy that I could watch today on one hand.
Really? See, so like, I'm huge into cartoons, though. I love cartoons.
What else could I watch today? I really liked the recent Disney movie, Moana.
That was a good movie. I like that movie. I kind of wanted to give you shit there, but no, I really like that movie.
I don't know, man. Sausage Party was kind of funny, going an entirely different route.
Dude, Sausage Party was great. I'm
struggling, though. Like, I can't... That's 3. So, like, not that I hated How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It just... I'm not a cartoon guy. That being said, big fan of the Jim Carrey version.
Really? That's interesting to me.
I loved Jim Carrey growing up too. Another movie that used to be one of my all-time favorites was what is it?
Dumb and Dumber?
No, Almighty. What was that one called?
Bruce Almighty?
Bruce Almighty. Evan Almighty was coming to mind, and that one sucked. But Bruce Almighty was one of my favorite movies.
It was a good movie. What about Gremlins? Like, Gremlins, when I was a kid, was one of my favorite movies.
So I never watched Gremlins growing up.
No.
I can't tell you why. I don't know, but I didn't. And my ex, couldn't believe that because it was one of her all-time favorite movies. Mm-hmm. And so we tried to watch together, and I'm pretty sure, I couldn't make it through it. I'm fairly certain it ended in me saying, how upset would you be if we, stopped watching this?
Was she pretty upset?
No, because I know I didn't watch the rest of it.
Mm. And what about A Nightmare Before Christmas?
It doesn't really rank for me anywhere. I think, I'll say this, I love the concept.
Okay.
But in terms of the movie itself, no strong feelings.
Okay. So this movie we watched last year at my dad's house for Christmas Eve. So if you ever get introduced to my father, he's a very interesting man. I'd probably say he himself as a person has probably done the most growing as a human being in the last probably 7 to 10 years of his life. So let that tell you about where he used to be. And let that tell you, kind of give you a little bit of a reference point for what I'm about to mention. So last year on Christmas Eve, we ended up watching Bad Santa because he loved it.
Never watched it.
Never watched. So Bad Santa is Billy Bob Thornton is this drunk thief.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Okay. But my dad loves that type of shit. And we gotta watch this on Christmas Eve. That's not a Christmas Eve movie. I mean, it is a Christmas movie, but it's not it's not what you should be watching with kids in the room. What are we doing?
Hence why I never watched it. If I didn't watch a Christmas movie as a kid, it's probably not a super strong chance that I'm watching it anytime recently. And there's no way in hell my mom would have let me watch that.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch Cartoon Network.
This is why you're super wholesome.
Because I couldn't watch Cartoon Network?
It's the way you grow up. So my mom
is the reason I'm super wholesome. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
My mom tried really hard to I don't know, make me a better person. I think as a child I just kind of gave in. I remember watching In Living Color as a small child, and Living Color was pretty over the top.
I mean this wholeheartedly. If my mom was still alive, I think having her on this podcast would be one of the wildest things to do in the world. I would love to have you interview my mom.
Oh my God, I would love to interview your mother. That would be so much fun.
I don't know that I could be on the podcast while you did it, but I think it would be hilarious.
That would be one of those things where I would love for you, your mom, and me to be in a studio, and me sitting across from your mom with you basically the third chair, where we just kind of watch you for your reaction as all this goes on. This would be something that we could put on a Twitch stream. It would be fantastic.
I would be somewhere else when you had the interview. I could listen to it after the fact.
Oh, it would be so good.
Any other Christmas movies, because this is, kind of just all over the place, that you feel a need to get to before we wrap up the show?
No, I mean, I found a list, and I was kind of going off a list there, just trying to see if there's anything that maybe we missed. I think this would be a good one to kind of throw out to people. If you guys are listening to this, thank you for listening. But do message us on Twitter at Brendan Riley _ right? Did I get it right?
Yep.
Yes.
On Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
You can also message me at Adam R. STROZ on Twitter. Let us know what is your favorite Christmas movie.
Out of curiosity, do new Christmas movies appeal to you? Could you see a preview for a Christmas movie and still want to go see it? Or is it all about the classics now?
No, I mean, if it's interesting, I'll definitely go see it. I'll be honest with you, man. I can't wait for movie theaters to reopen here in Michigan.
No, I'm the same.
Because I miss going to the movies. I love going to the movies. I'm kind of weird when I go to the movies too. I don't know if you're like this, but I'm a guy who has to get to the movie theater roughly a half hour ahead of time. I've got to get my popcorn, get my pop. I usually get through the popcorn before the movie credits even start. I go refill the popcorn, and I've got my seat and everything picked out usually 20 minutes ahead of time. I'm a Nazi with it. I'm crazy. Drives my girlfriend nuts.
So I was that person for a long time, but what I would tell you is I wasn't aware of it. That's just, we talked about it. I grew up in a family who was early to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in the last 5 years, I've become aware of a lot of the things that were so normal to me that aren't normal. And that's one of them. Like, I didn't realize being somebody who was super early to show up to everything wasn't, I didn't realize that was something someone would notice about me. Like, you had the awareness to, like, point that out. I didn't even realize that was a thing. Like, I was like, oh yeah, no, like, I just get to the movies early. Like, I get everywhere early. It's what you do. Now, not necessarily, but I still love going to the movies. That being said, I don't know that there's a Christmas movie in a long time that's appealed to me. I did watch one at work, when I worked at the paint store. I'm trying to remember it. It's like a scary Christmas movie that's come out in like the last 5 years.
Wasn't Jack Frost?
No, I think it began with a K. Oh God.
Was it Krampus?
Krampus.
Yeah. My dad made us watch that last year for Christmas too, because he's a dick.
So I worked at, do you remember the paint store I worked at that went out of business?
Yeah.
So we were open on a Saturday that I want to say was the day before Christmas Eve. We had one customer the entire day. I was there for 6 hours. And so we watched it. It wasn't my choice. It was the girl I was there with wanted to watch it. It was like one of her favorite Christmas movies. And I really enjoyed it. But like I wouldn't choose to watch that or any other Christmas movie really. Shoot, I think that's the last Christmas movie I watched. And that was probably 3 years ago. I don't think I've watched one since.
Really? Yeah. So like that movie Krampus was not, I don't think it was anything great, but my dad was like, oh, we got to watch this. Like, again, we have small children running around. My dad's like, we got to watch this. And it's like a horror movie on Christmas.
I enjoyed it, but yeah, not the movie, not the family Christmas movie.
No, definitely not. I'm looking at him like, what the hell's wrong with you? He's like, no, this is good.
Think that's going to do it? If we got everything that you need to get to? Awesome. If you're listening on Christmas, thank you. If you're listening after Christmas, thank you. Whenever you're listening, thank you. Hope you enjoyed your holidays, whatever they were. It's been a lot of fun. Glad we